You're walking down the aisle at Home Depot. Except you're not looking for something to buy. You're working there, stacking shelves. Summer's coming up and you've been thinking about going back to school. You've been trying this music thing for a while and you've been seeing some success, but it's not enough to live off. Instead, you're here, at a dead-end job you hate, when all of a sudden, you get a notification on your phone. It's Wheezy. You got one. And it's not just any old song. It's Pushin P. And your whole life is about to change.
When Gunna says Pushin P.
Pushin P. What does that phrase mean?
I need to know what P is.
See, Gunna, I gotta ask. We Pushin P.
But that's not where this story starts. Juke Wong was born in the Windy City, Chicago. One day, Juke is sitting in computer class. He would usually finish his work before everyone else, and this day was no different. With nothing else to do, he explores what the computer has to offer, when suddenly, he notices something he hadn't seen before, an application called GarageBand. He opens it and starts messing around, making beats. And what had started as something to pass time after he'd finished his work in computer class quickly turned into an obsession. Juke was making beats every single day. Fast forward to the year 2015. Juke is in high school when Future and Drake dropped their new collab album called What a Time to Be Alive. Juke listens, and what he hears will come to change the trajectory of his life forever. He's instantly hooked and decides he needs to take this music thing seriously. And by some sort of divine intervention, that same day, Juke comes home to a brand new laptop his father had bought for him. Juke is stunned and asks his dad, "Why did you buy this for me?" And his dad answers, "Well, you're almost finished with high school, so I thought you could use this for college." Little did Juke's father know he would be doing something completely different with it. At this point, Juke was in GarageBand every single day making beats. This obsession of his was starting to affect the rest of his life. He was up all night making beats, getting no sleep. So in the mornings, he was always tired. His grades started falling, but he didn't care. Music was all he knew. After 6 months of doing this, he knew what he had to do. It was time for an upgrade. $200 for Logic Pro X. Now, $200 might not seem like a lot, but for a kid in high school, $200 can be hard to come by. But there was no other way. It was either that or staying on GarageBand making bad beats forever. He knew what he had to do. With $200 less in his bank account, Juke starts grinding. Day after day, sleepless night after sleepless night. At this point, there was nothing else for him but music. Cut to the summer of 2020. Juke had really started getting into the loop making part of production, creating his own samples for other producers to put their drums on. Now, his current manager had a connection to the producer Forever Rollin'. Seeing as Juke was making samples, it was a no-brainer for his manager to try and connect them. But here's the issue. Every producer doesn't like every single sample maker. A producer, especially a big industry producer like Forever Rollin', gets their DMs flooded with loop makers trying to send them stuff every single day. But usually, they only really work with a select few that they really like. So, what could Juke do to ensure that he was going to be one of those select few? Well, nothing. Nothing but to just send the best samples he had ever made and hoped for the best. So Juke sends him a pack and waits. Then, it happens. Forever Rollin' hits him back. "Yo bro, you're mad fire, we gotta tap in." That's the best possible thing that could happen to Juke at that moment. So what does Juke do? Well, he starts locking in, sending samples to Forever Rollin', and finally, it happens. Juke gets his first placement, landing the song Red Zone by ESTG. All those sleepless nights, all that doubt, sacrificing his grades, it was starting to pay off. But just because he got a placement didn't mean he was ready to slow down. In fact, it meant the complete opposite. Juke had kept sending Forever Rollin' samples after Red Zone dropped. He had gotten a taste of success, so now there was nothing holding him back.
Nice.
One night, Juke is at the gym. It's getting late, so he checks his phone. It's 10 o'clock at night. Suddenly, he gets a FaceTime from none other than Forever Rolling himself. Juke immediately picks up. Yo, what's good, bro? Bro, I'm in the studio with ESTG right now. We got another one. Listen to this. Forever Rolling starts playing the song. And little did Juke know that song he was listening to through FaceTime on his iPhone speakers would be the last domino brick to fall on his road to success. What Juke was listening to was the unreleased version of the song Lick Back by ESTG. Now, Juke had already had a song with ESTG, remember? Red Zone? But landing Red Zone would be nothing compared to what Lick Back would do for him. It drops and it's an instant street anthem. And it's doing numbers. ESTG is getting more and more mainstream by the day, and the numbers, they just keep going up. Some time passes by, and it's time for ESTG to follow up on the success of Lick Back by dropping an album. On the album, G decides he's going to include a remix of Lick Back. And guess who he gets to jump on the remix? Future and Young Thug. All of a sudden, Juke goes from only having 2 placements with ESTG to having a placement with Future and Young Thug. As the whole rap community has its eyes on ESTG, some very big people in the music industry have their eyes on Juke. But let's not paint it out to be something that it's not. Even though Juke was seeing major success in the music game, he was still working a normal 9-to-5 job. While all this was happening, Juke worked delivery for Jimmy John's. Juke was still grinding away. And on a day no different from any other, Juke was on his way to deliver some sandwiches. He was at a red light. And when you're working with something so far from what your dreams actually are, a 15-second stop at a red light can feel like an eternity. Juke gives in and decides he has just enough time to check his phone to see his notifications. Juke looks down at the screen. He can't believe what he's looking at. He looks away and looks back again to try and see if what he saw was actually real. And it was real. Wheezy had just followed him on Instagram. Suddenly, the light turns green. Juke has to put down his phone. But he still can't believe what he just saw. Maybe he really is dreaming. What if he was just in a car accident and he's in some hospital somewhere right now, deep in a coma? So he calls his friend. Yo bro, what's up? Are you at work? Yeah bro, I'm at work, but listen, check my Instagram. I think Wheezy just followed me. Can you see it? He waits in silence as his friend opens Instagram and checks the accounts that follow him. After a couple seconds of waiting, what must have felt like an eternity, his friend finally responds. Yeah bro, he really follows you. This is exactly the kind of opportunity Juke needed. One of the biggest producers in the game co-signing him. It's basically an invitation to work. This might be the moment where Juke is actually going to be able to quit his day job and make hits with no other than Wheezy himself. So Juke instantly DMs him. Yo bro, appreciate the following. Let's work. What's your email? And what does Wheezy respond? Nothing. Nothing at all.
Wheezy out of here.
Wheezy doesn't even read it. What he thought was his ticket out was suddenly shredded to pieces right in front of his eyes. But all the years of grinding had taught Juke one thing. Persistence is key. Juke doesn't stop DMing him for an entire week until suddenly Wheezy responds. Yeah bro, send some stuff. Here's the email. This was the opportunity Juke had waited for. Ever since he first hopped on GarageBand in computer class, even if he didn't know it at the time, it had all been building up towards this moment. Remember when Juke first got the opportunity to send some loops over to Forever Rolling? Think about what that must have felt like. The anxiety of choosing the right samples to send. What if you send something you think is fire, and whoever you're sending to thinks they're ass? Well, now imagine that same feeling, but times 1,000. This is Wheezy, someone who has had some of the biggest hits in the last decade. Songs like Drip Too Hard, Hot, and Yes Indeed, just to name a few. But here's the thing, what can you really do except trust your gut and send what you believe to be the best samples you have? If it's meant to be, then the producer listening to your samples will like them. If not, maybe you weren't a great match from the beginning. So Juke picks out 16 of his best samples and presses send. Now going off how long it took for Wheezy to respond to his Instagram DMs, you'd think Juke wouldn't hear back from him in a month. But once Wheezy actually heard what Juke had to offer, he hit him back the next day. Yo bro, I used the whole pack you sent. Yes, Wheezy had made 16 beats in one day, all using Juke's samples. That goes to show you two things. The actual quality of the samples Juke was putting out, and how hard someone like Wheezy actually works to be in the position he's in. Now, there was only one option for him. Keep sending and never stop. So, That's exactly what Juke started doing, sending samples to him every 2-3 days. One day, Juke is cooking up in his room, like he would do every single day. He's finishing up a sample he had just been cooking up. As he finishes it, he listens back. This is kinda weak, he thinks to himself. He finishes it anyway, and he's about to send a pack to Wheezy. He looks at the MP3 file on his computer, contemplating whether he should send it or not. He's about to scrap it, when suddenly he changes his mind. Maybe he'll like it. So, Juke puts it in the pack and thinks nothing of it. Now remember, Juke is still working his day job. At this time, Juke had changed from Jimmy John's to Home Depot. He would work at night from 7 to 11, so he would wake up at crazy hours of the day. One day, he had just woken up. He picked up his phone next to his bed. One day, he had just woken up. He picked up his phone next to his bed. It was 6 p.m. He has 1 hour left until he starts work. He goes into Instagram and starts checking people's stories. After clicking through a couple, he lands on a clip, a new snippet. He hears the chorus, Gunna repeatedly saying,
Pushin P, I'm Pushin P.
even though it was maybe, even though it was a little repetitive, Juke thinks to himself, this is hard. He listens again, when suddenly he recognizes something in the beat. He immediately goes into his email to check all the samples he had sent to Wheezy. He listens through it all, when he finally finds it. The same melody he was on the verge of not sending was the exact same one Gunna was rapping over in the snippet. He got one. As soon as the snippet dropped, it instantly went viral. The idea of Pushin P was a mystery to the world, and fans were scrambling to figure out the meaning behind it. This mystery propelled the song. Not only was it just pure fire, combining Gunna, Future, and Young Thug all into one track, that element of mystery made it have extra impact. Today, the song sits at over 400 million streams on Spotify, going platinum 2 times. It's safe to say, when you get a hit song like that, your life changes. After its release, Juke had countless opportunities coming his way, from people wanting to work with him to labels trying to sign him. What's crazy is, even after landing the song and it being released, Juke was still working at Home Depot for another month until he finally quit.
Founders. And it looks like my time is now.
Every day, just rocking up with headphones, blasting Pushin P from 7 all the way to 11. Today, Juke Wong has a bunch of placements, working with some of the biggest rappers in the world like Future, Playboi Carti, Lil Baby, Young Thug, 21 Savage, and many others. Juke has been the furthest thing from a one-hit wonder. That comes down to 2 main factors: his work ethic and the uniqueness and quality of his work, which really is unmatched. I actually met him when I was in Atlanta, and from our brief interaction, one thing you could tell is how down to earth he really is. Even after all his success, he doesn't let it change who he really is. That kid, sitting in computer class on GarageBand, just trying to pass time. But no story in music is complete without the actual music itself. What is it about Juke Wong's production that is so special? Well, I made a beat to show you why that is, and how to get that signature Juke Wong sound. One thing that Juke definitely does a lot is orchestral samples. You can hear this in songs like Pludowski or Pardon My Back. A great plugin for that type of sound is Opus, so I used it a lot in this sample. I started off by adding this spiccato string, and it originally sounded like this. It was definitely not bad. Opus is such a great plugin that you could literally just play a single note and it would still sound fire. But I wanted to change the texture and the sound a little bit, so I added the plugin Drip to it. This is what it sounded like after. It sounded way better now, but obviously it was very empty. One thing you can hear somewhere in almost every Juke sample is a staccato string. So I had to add one, and I played this simple progression. I felt like it was missing some low end, however, so I went into Opus and grabbed a low brass and just played the root note. I didn't really like the high end of the brass, so I added an EQ to remove it. One thing that I definitely picked up from listening to Juke is adding opera sounding vocals. No matter what, they always just make the beat sound way harder. So I went into Opus again and added this. To sort of counter that vocal, I wanted to add something right after it so that the empty space behind it will be filled. Since the beat was already dark, I wanted to dive deeper into that by adding a string trill. It already sounded good, but just to give the sample some more dynamic elements, I decided to make each note the trill plays pan to different directions using Shaper Box. Now, one thing with Juke samples is he always has different sections. Instead of just sending out loops, he basically sends out full beats, just without the drums. One of his songs where this can be heard is Pushin P. The melody switches to a super gritty, dark, reversed sound. I started off by using the same brass as before, but just changing the pattern. Then I added another brass, this time using a different sound still out of Opus, just to fill out the high end a little bit. Now, this is a bit of cheating, but while making the sample, I remembered another sample I had made with my guy Chizzo. He's genuinely one of my favorite people to work with. He's so fire, definitely go and follow him. I grabbed this sound out of the sample which I made just by layering two reverse pianos on top of each other and running them both through Effect Rack and RC20. Then I grabbed these phrases that Chizzo had made. Honestly, I have no idea how he made them, but he's a magician. Then I just added those two parts of the old sample to the new one, and it sounded like this. Although, when recording this, I did forget to change the BPM down to 120, so imagine this 10 BPM slower. After that, I just arranged the sample, and then it was time to add some signature Project 6 drums. Here's the final beat.